Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again and welcome back to another Vlog Thursday product preview. Call them a preview because we're talking about products that have not really been used so much as evaluated. However, the evaluation is very much based on the hard use of two other products, so maybe a review-ish. Anyway, we're going to talk about today the Schrade SCHF51 and 51M and 52 and 51M. Some advancements, or I should say evolutions, of knives that were released last year, or year before, whatever it was. The Schrade SCHF36 right here and 37 right there. Now you guys will have seen my reviews on these knives if you watch my channel. If you don't watch my channel and you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'll put an annotation somewhere here on the screen, or look down below in the description for the link to my review of these knives, and also the SCHF38, which is not on the table. Now, in that review, as most of you remember, they both lost their tip. Both of these knives lost their tips, and that was very much because I decided to go ahead and do a stab and pry test just for the heck of it, and they lost their tip. They busted. So, have these knives been improved to the point that they will not lose their tips? No, probably not. And that's fine. That's actually totally fine, because I don't think a stab and pry test is an extremely useful or meaningful test. It's basically an abuse test. So we'll get away from that and probably not do much more of it in the future, but it was worth noting that these two did break their tips. However, as I look at these knives, there's definitely a little bit of a difference in the contour of the grind. So this one, and just sort of looking at where the stock is ground on this and trying to compare that to this one, it looks like the stock comes a little further forward than on this one. If that's true, then there is likely to be more metal supporting that tip. Okay, that may or may not be true. I don't intend to do a stab and pry with any of these knives at this point, but anyway, it could be stronger. We'll just see, I guess. But let's talk about sort of how these knives have been improved, why they were improved by Schrade, and what I think about the improvements or changes, if we'll call them that. So there were a couple of complaints that I had about this knife right here. For the most part, none. Not a lot of complaints at all, especially for the freaking money. What was it, like 30, 35 bucks? 1095 steel, TPE handles. I think, yeah, easily under $40 for either one of these two knives, and you can still get them for that price. So if you want to save a bit of money over these models that I think are still in production, not out yet, then definitely go with the 36 or 37, because they're still really good knives. I'll talk about sort of the handle ergonomics and how they have been improved over here though, but as far as just general purpose use, these knives, virtually nothing wrong with them. Virtually nothing wrong with them. They got a nice little finger choil up there, allows you to get better control over the knife when you're doing some fine carving and stuff like that, and it definitely works, and I tested that thoroughly, and that's definitely true on the 37 as well. You can get your finger up in that choil. It is a bit larger, the finger choil on this one, so you got a little more of a grip on that, a little more control. You got kind of a hump there. If you don't like that, well, that's something you got to deal with. But if you don't mind gripping backwards a little bit on that, and kind of using your thumb on the spine as you're doing your work, you're going to be nice and comfortable using that knife. Either one of these, actually. So they're still great knives, and again, for the money, it's worth considering. But we'll talk about how these ones have changed the whole thing. Now, these are definitely, as you can see, based very much on the 37 and 36, the 52 and 51. And the big changes are really sort of in the handle that I can see. And again, we might have a slight difference in the grind on that blade. I'm perceiving that here, but it may or may not really be that big of a difference. They're both still hollow ground. So as far as the blade is going to be the same kind of a fine edge on it from this one to that one. It's not going to be supported in a different way, I should say. It's very, very similar as far as the grind is concerned. But there are definitely some ergonomic changes to it. The handle is the biggest change there. The material on the TPE version, obviously still the same and looks nearly identical. You can see that. still same kind of a grip pattern to it, and that's just fine. I never had a problem with it, never had an issue with it. You will see though that the stock of the blade, as it comes through right here, the tang, has tons of jimping, some very, very thick, coarse jimping on that the versions of the 36 and the 37. They both have that there. So that was something I suppose people complained about. I never really had a problem with it, but yeah, that's gone now. That is gone on the 51. So that is just clean and clear and smooth. But we do still have some here on the spine in the same, looks like the same exact location. And perhaps it's a little different, perhaps it's a little more rounded. Yeah, this is definitely deeper. So this is maybe shallower jimping. So it's not going to be quite as coarse on your thumb or on the web of your hand as you're digging into stuff, but it's definitely there. So if you wanted that stuff on the spine, and most people want to have the option of a little bit of a spine jimping, it's still there. It's still there for you. But back to the TPE handles, obviously they follow a new contour based on the contour of the handle in general. Still removable with those, looks like Allen head keys, Allen screws. So it looks like even takes the same one, so that's useful. But and you can see, like I said before, it follows a new contour, giving you a little more of a horseshoe shape here, or a seahorse shape, whatever you want to call it. So that kind of locks your hand in, locks your pinky in a little better, gives you a little more of a pommel to hold on to right there. So I do like that improvement for sure on the SCHF51 over the 36. I always kind of felt like the handle on the 36, 37 was a little bit short. Once I get up here, I don't mind it so much as I choke up. But as long as I'm, back here swinging and chopping and doing stuff like that, it's a little bit small, or a little bit short, I should say. So having gained a little bit of extra space there, maybe half an inch or whatever, and that little curve there definitely locks my hand in. Now if I want to chop from this position, I can do it really comfortably. I can even choke back on this if I wanted to, like so, and give a little more momentum to that blade for some work. So that's definitely a good thing. So overall, I think that the handle has been perfected here. Okay, it is more ergonomic, it's got more to hold on to, it's more versatile in the ways that you can use it. So I would say that they have perfected the handle. I would not want more than that. I would not want it to be longer than that. It would be weird if it were. But as it is right now, that is exactly where I want it to be. It's perfect. I love it. And identical as you can tell on the SCHF or 51M, the micarta version. It's just made of micarta instead of TPE. So it follows the exact same contour. In fact, if I was to pop that off and switch handle covers, they'd be I basically changed the identification of the knife by doing that, because that's the only difference. The steel is the same on these two. The grind is the same. The contours are identical. They will probably take each other's handles perfectly fine with no complaints. It looks like they would easily. So yeah, the only difference, like I said before, between the 51 and 51M is that you have TPE here and you have micarta there. Which one do I think is better between the two, micarta or the TPE? My personal preference as far as for use is the TPE. It feels better in hand. It gives a little bit in a way, not really, but it's got a kind of a soft, rubbery kind of a feel. Not the fast wearing kind of soft rubber, but kind of a hard rubber, but it still gives in your hand. It still feels good in your hand. Whereas the micarta doesn't do that, and I've never had a problem with micarta in the past, and I still don't. I would say though that this fills your hand a little bit more. It's a little bit thicker, and also it doesn't quite have the contoured edges to it. So this is a little bit sharper here on the edge, right there, right here. Everywhere that there is a little bit of a contour, it's more of a corner. You can see it right there, I think, right here. So it's more of a corner than a contour. So I would like to see that rounded a bit. Now, once you get this in hand, that is definitely a job that you can do on your own. There's no reason you can't sand down micarta, unless you want to avoid cancer. Well, I don't know that that's necessarily true. But it is certainly something you don't want to breathe in. You don't want to breathe in micarta dust. So if you were going to do that, I would say do some research, make sure that you're doing it safely. From a personal standpoint, I would say a respirator for sure, a good mask, something covering your eyes probably, and then do it in a really well ventilated area, perhaps even with a fan blowing, to blow that dust as far away from you as you can, maybe in your backyard or something like that. Or, I wouldn't do it like in my garage where that dust is going to settle and it's going to stick around for a long time. I wouldn't do that. Unless, again, I had lots of fans blowing so the dust was definitely being taken away. Because I don't want to deal with that dust by accident ever. Okay, it's not a good idea. It's not good stuff to be breathing in. So just take some precautions if you're going to do that as a job on your own, sanding that down and contouring it to your liking. Otherwise, it does have kind of a texture to it. And it's difficult to kind of point it out but you can hear that fingernail dragging over it. So where it looks like it has texture, it does. And it's beautiful, isn't it? It's really nice, that sort of black and white canvas micarta. I think it's really nice looking. So for looks, I would say the micarta easily. For out-of-the-box comfort, the TPE. That's pretty much what it boils down to for me. So you'll just have to decide for yourself which one you think is better. Of the two, there's not a huge difference in price either. And everything I'm saying about the 51 and 51M, just push that right on over to the 52 and 52M, because they are virtually identical in qualities. But the prices are really good on these. Something like, I think they're all sub 50. Either one of these is sub $50, probably like 45-ish or less. That is fantastic. Now, if you're looking at saving maybe $10, then you could still stick with the older models, which I believe are still available. You can get them today. Whereas these ones, not quite on the market yet. They're coming though. So do you want to save the money, or do you want to spend maybe another $10 and get something perfected, in my opinion? Now, I can say that, okay, because I've used these to a good degree, right? You guys can see that from the use that I've put on the blades and through the videos that I made on them. I know that they're good knives, and I know where their weaknesses are. And having gotten these new ones in hand, I can tell you for sure they are improved, perfected knives. Not the perfect knife necessarily, that's all very subjective, but as far as the design is perfected, and it is pretty much worked out all the kinks, in my opinion. The last thing I want to touch on that I think is a really important point is the coating. The coating on the old 36 and 37, I hated it. Hated it. You can see how filthy and nasty that looks. And that is all just some of the wood that I chopped away and carved away at during the testing. And it's still there. Now, it's, in all honesty, I did not bother trying to clean it up thoroughly or even very much at all. I just kind of stuck them back in their sheath and stuck them in their drawer. But they like to stick that material onto them, and also that coating on it, sort of a powder coating on it. Let me see if I can do this for you. Check this out. I don't know if I can get this good angle. All right. You can hear that, right? That's my fingernail over the coating of the blade. I don't like that kind of friction on a blade. It makes no sense. No sense. Yes, it protects the 1095, but I don't like friction on my blade. It's got to be smooth. It's got to pass through material easily. And that is the biggest, one of the most important improvements they made on the new 51 and 52, either the M or the standard, is they changed the coating. And the coating on this one is very much like, it appears to be very much like the coating on the SCHF9, which I reviewed quite a while back, which holds up really nice. It's good, and it's got a good amount of lubricity to it. It's slick to the degree that it needs to be. It doesn't have that high traction that these ones do, which is just a humongous improvement. And we can do the little fingernail test on that one as well. Yeah, you can hear it. Hardly feels like a coating at all. Hardly sounds like one anyway. But that is definitely an improvement over the previous version. So, pretty much in all ways I can think of, the SCHF51 and 51M, 52 and 51M are vast improvements over the previous versions of these knives. The previous versions are still good though. And that is my product preview for this Vlog Thursday. I hope that it was helpful to you. Be on the lookout for these. They're going to be hitting the market and available this year, I think, or pretty soon anyways, for, once again, a really, really good price. I'm Late Boy Scout. Thanks very much for watching. Guys, take care. We'll see you on the next one.